Hello, my name is Shwani and this is the Curly Bookworm. I am very excited today because I am going to be giving you 5 book recommendations of what is fast becoming my favorite genre right now, you guys. This is the cozy book genre. Yes, I know. For those who've been reading for a while, it's been around for a while, so it's not like some brand new thing, but it's kind of blowing up on BookTube right now, so why not? Anyway, the point of a cozy book is that it is the kind of book that you can get into a blanket after a very long day, keep your favorite beverage on the side to sip on, like a matcha latte or like a hot chocolate or whatever fancy thing floats your boat, and read this book and escape. That's the reason why this genre is so amazing. It's kind of like switching on Netflix at the end of the day for like your comfort watch. Do you know what I mean? So let's go, because I'm gonna give you 5 amazing books. So for the first book, we have one of my favorites from this list. This is That Bonesetter Woman by Frances Quinn. I read this on Scribd as usual, and so I don't really have the physical copy of it, but man, it was amazing. It was so chuckle-worthy and funny and cozy. Okay, so the premise, let's talk about the premise. What is this book about, you ask? Why so much excitement? Well, okay, wait. So this is set in the 18th century, I think. Yes, the 18th century in England, in a small town. These two girls work and live there with their parents. They're brought up there, and something happens and they have to move to London for a short period to, I don't know, to like escape some embarrassment or to get over like something that happens in the small town because of them, and particularly because of one of the sisters, the older sister. So they move to London to go and hang out with their aunt for a little bit. And the protagonist here, Dury, hates it. She really doesn't want to be here. She wants to be a bone setter. That's basically, I'm assuming, like an orthopedician, someone who sets bones. She is super excited about doing it because her father has done it and it's been in the family, and she's watched her father do it and she loves it. Like, it's her passion and she really wants to pursue it. But it being 18th century England, she's of course not allowed to because she's a woman. And so she and her sister are sent away for a bit to their aunt's house. And their aunt runs this little bakery, and Dury has to now deal with the fact that she doesn't have exposure to you know, like this whole bone setting world, and she doesn't know what to do with her time, and she has to figure out what to do with herself. And I'm not telling you anymore because it is fantastic and it is so cozy. The tone of this book is so lovely. I was chuckling throughout the book, like loudly. It's not something that I do very often, but I was actually chuckling because it's funny. It was funny. So I definitely suggest that you read it. This is those feel-good vibes. It's almost like Downton Abbey in its feel. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, 5 on 5 for me. Please read it. So the second book that I have for you is this one. It is called A Lady's Guide to Fortune Hunting by Sophie Irwin. This was also set in England. I don't know, I feel like these cozy vibes, these like cozy books, come from this England 18th, 19th century, early 19th century sort of vibe. This book is also set in the 18th century-ish, where our protagonist, Kitty, is basically trying to get wedded to a man who is rich. Yes, that's what she's trying to do. And I know it sounds like vile a little bit, but you find yourself sort of supporting her because she has 4 other sisters younger than her, much younger than her, that she needs to support. One is like barely in her teens and she needs to support them, and her parents have died. And worse, they've actually left them in debt. So she's going to lose her house very soon. They're literally going to be on the streets because, you know, there is no way for her to earn money. This isn't like modern England. This is basically 18th century England. So she needs to find a rich husband who can pay off her debt, make sure that her sisters are comfortable and can still live in that house, and that she can basically be happy that her family, and at peace that her family is okay. And so she's on the path of doing that, except that her fiance breaks up with her just at the beginning of the book, and so she's like, dang, what am I supposed to do now? I mean, she didn't say dang because it's 18th century England and it's not America like right now, but anyway, the point is that she needs to still find a husband, a rich husband at that. And so she goes to London, because the small town that she's from doesn't have any more rich men. So she goes to London again. Same plot, except this time for a husband. So anyway, she starts doing this hunting for a husband business, and she finds a viable candidate, and she's sort of in the process of snaring him when she finds out that his titled brother, like older brother, is basically going to be a thorn in her works. Like he's not going to be okay with this. He is going to stop Kitty at all costs. And that is the story. It is so cozy. It's funny. Like there are these plot twists that happen in the story. I thought it was going to be pretty predictable, but it wasn't. There was something that surprised me quite a bit in the story, and I think they'll surprise you too. I would definitely suggest that you pick it up. I think I rated it like a 4 on 5. It was amazing. Very, very good. Hi! A note from future Shabani, which is literally like at the end of filming this. I just realized that I forgot to tell you that if Bonesetter Woman is like Downton Abbey vibes, this book, which is a lady's guide to fortune hunting, is like Bridgerton. That's the vibe. And I think that might help you figure out if you want to read this or not. Now go and watch the rest of the video. So the next book that I want to talk to you about is a fantasy book. A very secret society of irregular witches. Isn't that the cutest? I mean, I don't know if you can actually see the picture. Oh, I feel like I'm just like floating around looking at myself on camera. But anyway, so a very secret society of irregular witches. This is this really cute fantasy book. It's a witchy fantasy book. It's a cozy book, obviously. It is set in England, obviously, but it is set in modern England. And Mika Moon, who is the protagonist, lives by herself because she belongs to a coven of witches where the big rule is that you can't be, you know, in touch with the normies, the humans, neither can you be in touch with each other, like as in the witches of the coven. I think they meet once a quarter or once a month or something like that, and that's all the contact that she has with anyone who is, I guess, like a real friend, anyone who can see the real her. And so she's quite lonely by a lot of standards, but she is a fun young girl who apparently also has an Instagram account. And in this Instagram account, she is essentially a witch. Like, can you believe it? She's not supposed to tell anyone that she's a witch, but here she is on Instagram being a witch, and she's like this cool witch on Instagram, and everybody thinks, obviously, like nobody thinks that she's a witch, right? Because there aren't any witches, right? But Mika Moon is a witch pretending to be a witch, and it's funny. But anyway, so this is something that she does to, I think, like reach out to other people and have connections or whatever. She moves towns very often, she moves homes very often and jobs very often, and at one such time she actually ends up getting a DM on Instagram, or maybe it was an email, saying, hey, we know that you're really a witch and we actually have a job for you if you're in the market for that. Would you come here at this date? Would you be interested? We will tell you more about the job. It's a tutoring role. We'll tell you more about it once you come here. And so obviously Mika is intrigued. She knows she shouldn't. She knows she shouldn't go because she can't tell anyone that she's a witch. But she goes because if she didn't, we wouldn't have a story. And so we do have a story. And so she goes and she discovers that she has to tutor these 3 young ladies. This book has a very similar vibe to what is that book? The House in the Cerulean Sea. I don't know if you guys have read it. I have. I think I read it a couple of years ago. And it has very, very similar vibes. It's very cozy. It's very sweet. There's a little bit of a romance put in there as well. But it's really not about the romance. It's more about Mika. It's about the witchery. And there's not much fantasy in it. It's not high fantasy. It's fun fantasy. It's cutesy fantasy. But it is such a riot. I would definitely ask you to read it if you're in need of a cozy book. The next book that I want to recommend to you is also in that cutesy fantasy genre, where actually it's more cute than fantasy. So I'm gonna say that it falls under cozy, and I'm not the only person that says it falls under cozy, because literally the whole internet has gone crazy about this book. I think it released last year, and all everybody could talk about was this book, and of course I read this book as well. This is called Legends and Lattes. It is a very short book, but it's really fun. And no, this is not set in England because it is a fantasy world. I don't know where it's set, but it does have sort of English old time vibes. This book is now set in this like small town where somebody, particularly our protagonist Viv, wants to go and set up a coffee shop. That's correct. She wants to go and set up a coffee shop in this place where coffee is unheard of. Nobody has heard about it. Oh, and Viv is not like a regular person. I forgot to say that. She's an orc. Like, let me show you. I don't know if I showed you the picture of the book because I was just like rambling away. But let me show you what the book looks like. That's what it looks like. And that is Viv. And that's one of her employees from the coffee shop. She's actually erstwhile a really lethal and very successful assassin, but she has kind of gotten bored of it. She wants to do something new, and so what better than going to a small town and opening a coffee shop? I mean, that's like everybody's like dream, right? Not just an orc. My dream, I want to open a coffee shop which also has a big ass library that people can come and read and have coffee. That's like everybody's dream. Anyhow, so this is about Viv's dream. She goes to this small town and she opens this coffee shop, and there's all kinds of adventures that surround it. Everything from like funny employees to the funny people of the city who haven't tasted coffee before. They have no idea and they're discovering it for the first time, and people who don't want her to have any kind of successful establishment. And so yeah, this is that story. I hope you enjoy it. I gave it a 4 on 5. So tell me how you like it. My fifth recommendation, my last recommendation, is actually a series. So technically speaking, you get a bonus book. Okay, so this is by Becky Chambers. This is the book, A Psalm for the World Built. I mean, I always find it difficult to remember the name of the book. I always have to think of like the author, Becky Chambers, and then be like, a psalm something. So this is technically, I think the genre would be sci-fi, but it's not really sci-fi because it's very cutesy. I guess like if you have to be in the cozy book genre, then you just have to be cozy rather than like strictly in that genre, right? So this doesn't really have any sci-fi concept. I mean, it does have a robot, but like without giving too much away, it's not a very sciencey robot. This book is more philosophy-ish, but like in the nicest way. So when the book begins, we're much into the future. We've had robots and then gotten over robots, and now we live in a world where there aren't any robots. And there's this young person who is a monk, who has been a monk for a while, and he feels disillusioned. He feels like, I don't want to be a monk anymore. I'm kind of feeling a bit lost and existential, and I don't know what to do. And so he kind of goes from like town to town selling tea. Like he learns how to have a little tea shop, like a traveling tea shop. He learns how to make really nice tea, comforting, beautiful tea, all kinds of tea, and he starts selling it. So he's like this traveling monk who is selling tea in his like mobile van or whatever. The cozy vibes from this one comes from the fact that, I don't know, it's like the sweet story about being lost, about feeling purposeless and meeting new friends and things like that. I'm trying to not give you much away because it's a really short novel. It's like 140 pages or some silly thing like that. And even the second book, which is like the second book in the duology, is incredibly short and it's very beautiful. It's got the same world and it's got the same couple of characters, and it's so heartwarming and lovely. And let me tell you, you might think, hey, it's sci-fi, that's not my genre. Believe me when I tell you this, it is the least sci-fi book that I've ever read. I mean, the setting is modern and futuristic, and that's literally the only sci-fi element that you'll know, but everything else is very much human. It is a human story about human trials and human errors and human quest for questions that you need answering and human friendship and things like that. And I would definitely say you should read it. In fact, I would go so far as to say, if you have to pick one book from all of the 5 recommendations that I've given you today, it should be this book, because it is just that sweet. It is definitely one of the best books that I've read this year, and I would recommend it to anyone who reads. So that's it from me today. I have given you the 5 cozy books that you can start reading and you can thank me later because they're so good. And I will see you in my next video. In the meanwhile, do the liking, do the sharing, do the leaving, commenting and all of that jazz, because it helps this channel. I will see you in my next video. Bye.